in Amman at the funeral said, "Hate breeds hate." The US said they were doing this to rout out terrorism. Who's engaged in terrorism now? Abu Dhabi TV, which was right next door, their competitor, the reporters were still broadcasting as the tanks surrounded them, and they knew that they had already bombed the Al Jazeera offices, pleaded with anyone to help save them as the tanks surrounded and shelled their offices. In this country, there has hardly been a peep from the establishment mainstream media objecting to what the US military has done. Pentagon spokesperson Victoria Clark, who hails from Hill and Knowlton, right? She was in charge of the Washington office in the first Gulf War when that 15-year-old Kuwaiti girl gave that heart-rending testimony before the Human Rights Caucus about how she watched Iraqi soldiers drag Kuwaiti babies out of incubators. Turned out it was all a hoax. She was never there. She's the daughter of the Kuwaiti ambassador. Well, the Pentagon was very impressed, and she's now their spokesperson. The two Spanish journalists who died, Jose Cuso from Telecinco, he was a cameraman, and also the Spanish reporter who died, Julio Anguita Parado, reporter for Spanish newspaper El Mundo. When this happened, the Spanish reporters back in Spain said no. And they engaged in a one-day strike. When the Prime Minister of Spain came to the Spanish Parliament, they laid down the tools of their trade. They put down their cameras, their pens, and their pencils. They laid down the cables and the microphones, and they turned their backs and said shame, that they would not record the words of the powerful who have condoned these acts. And then they went outside, hundreds of media workers, and these were the elite journalists of Spain. And they stood outside the US Embassy, they blocked the intersection, and they chanted, "Murderer, murderer." As the press in this country, unfortunately, people like Ann Garrels of NPR said that Tariq Ayoub should have known better than to be in his office. The Agence France-Presse reporter in New York was outraged as he listened to this report. They got calls from all over, "How dare you blame the victim?" And she, a reporter herself. And I watched on CNN as Aaron Brown asked General Wesley Clark why this happened, and he said, well, this was clearly a mistake. And Victoria Clark is put on saying, well, they should know that Baghdad is dangerous and they should not be there. I believe that's the role of reporters, to go to where the silence is, to bring us the voices of people who are at ground zero. Now, it's one thing if they were killed by others, but they were killed by Victoria Clark's own troops, and she never apologized. The Pentagon has yet to do that, and now 14 journalists are dead. It is a very strong message that is being sent to the world's reporters now that this embedding has become such a success, and that is, you're in bed with the military, or, well, think about the Palestine Hotel.
And the mighty multinationals have monopolized the oxygen, so it's as easy as breathing for us all to participate.
On the night that the bombing began, to go over to the Ani DiFranco concert at the New Jersey Performing Arts Center, and some of you may have heard what happened. Now, you might wonder why I'd go on the moment that the bombs are about to fall, but 2,000 young people were packed into the Fine Arts Center in Newark, New Jersey, to see Ani, a wonderful artist, perform. And she said I could introduce her and also explain the importance of independent media in a time of war and where people could get alternative information. They were also going to have political tabling. And we raced over to the Performing Arts Center, and I called a cell phone, and Ani answered. I thought she was going on the stage and getting ready. I said, what are you doing answering this phone? She said, well, I don't know if the concert's going to go on. They will probably close down the concert if you go on the stage. They said no political speech allowed. but we are willing to risk this. They said, take the mic, make your statement about democratic media in a time of war, and if they close the mic, which we expect, we have a mic right behind, that's Ani's mic, pick it up and just keep on talking. Now, why is this significant and why does it relate to the rest of the country? Clear Channel is the very Bush-connected company that went from owning 47 radio stations to 1,400 in no time at all. As the FCC and Michael Powell, now the son of General Colin Powell, who heads it, are in the process of deregulating the media. And so we have seen this explosion of, I would say, ownership, except it's this concentration of ownership. Owning 1,400 radio stations in the country, they're sponsoring pro-war rallies, and they're saying that music that is critical of war cannot be played, and they're pushing other kinds of songs. And they are saying, no political speech allowed. Well, we got up, and we gave our little speech, and they didn't close the mic, and Ani got up, and she said, that's 1 for the people and 0 for the knuckleheads. And then she sang,
your next bold move, the next thing you're gonna need to prove to yourself.
These are very serious times at every level. Michael Franti, the great hip-hop artist, just told his story on Democracy Now! Of being at a concert on the East Coast, flying home to California, and the FBI knocking on the door. The FBI knocking on the door of one of the band members' homes and starting to question them and showing them pictures of their performance the night before on the East Coast and starting to question about who everyone is. He described getting his MTV email. These are artists, right, who've got their music videos that said, we will play no songs that say the word war. This all has to be challenged. Our mission is to make dissent commonplace in America. So you're not surprised when you're at work, someone walks over to the water cooler and makes a comment, that someone isn't shocked and says, what's that all about? But that it comes out of the finest tradition that built this country. People engaged in dissent. We have parallel worlds in this country. For some, it's the greatest democracy on earth. There is no question about that. But for others, I mean, immigrants now in detention facilities, they have no rights, not even to a lawyer. And we have to be there, and we have to watch, and we have to listen, and we have to tell their stories until they can tell their own. That's why I think Democracy Now! Is a very good model for the rest of the media, as is the Indie Media Center all over the country and the world, built on almost nothing except the goodwill and the curiosity and the interest and the passion of people who are tired of seeing their friends and neighbors through a corporate lens, and particularly tired and afraid of the fact that that image is being projected all over the world. That is very dangerous. Dissent is what makes this country healthy, and the media has to fight for that, and we have to fight for an independent media.
Communication breakdown. Pause for the message, wake up. Every station is a gentrification. Global syndication is the shaping of the nation. ABC, Disney, NBC, GE, Murdoch is Foxy, and with a hint, he owns a pen, the camera, the sword by Coke by Ford.
And experience your psychic connection.
We don't have shit to say, we don't have anything to do.
Selling attitude like food for the masses. Junk consumption, we are lumping. Just a bumpkin to the corporate state. You can't satiate what you can't negotiate. Your will's been snatched, the bill's attached. Flim flam diagram, data jam, handicap, caught it. Yo, you bought it. My mind is a profitable thing to waste. You want another taste, baby? Got news good. What we need to know. News good. What we want to know. News good. What we think we know. Got remote control to choose a show. But the more we watch, the less we know. Ignorance grows on the spirit like a tumor. Till freedom is a rumor.